Hello and welcome to the Century Hour with me, David Demakin. So here we are again. Today I have got a very good interview with the family of the founder of the Entertainer Toy Store. Now, the reason why I have asked them to come on is I'm not sure if you're aware or if you've seen that the Entertainer Toy Store has, excuse me, the Entertainer Toy Store has introduced a quiet hour to facilitate a more comfortable play experience for autistic children. I'm reading their press release at the moment, and I'll just give you the gist of what they've said in their press release before we get into the interview with the family of the founder, which it says the Entertainer, the fastest growing multi-channel high street toy retailer in the UK, is holding a quiet hour each day in all of its UK stores this half term to create a more calming environment for children with autism. So this was running between Monday the 12th of February to the Friday the 23rd of February. For the first hour of the Entertainer will be switching off music in store to help create a calming and less daunting environment for children with autism. So Kath Grant, the founder and managing director of the Entertainer, comments, "We always strive to make our stores a happy place for people to visit. And we have for some time been exploring ways in which we can make the Entertainer a more comfortable place for autistic children. The Entertainer is somewhere for children to explore their imagination and become inspired by all of the toys available. So we hope that introducing our quiet hour, more families will feel confident when it comes to shopping with us." So the Entertainer's quiet hour is being held across all 145 stores, as I said, between the 12th of February and the 23rd of February, and local half-term dates depending, and so on. Now, I've been in conversations with the Entertainer through email, through Twitter, and they've been more than happy to facilitate this discussion, this interview, which is going to be done by the wife of the founder. Her name is Kath. It will be a short 20-minute interview because obviously these people who are managing directors and families of the founder and things like that, they are very, very busy, and I'm just grateful that they have given us a small amount of time to do the interview. I think that it's such a positive thing that the Entertainer are doing, that they are going out and purposely looking for ways to help families with autistic children to access their stores. And as I've said in a couple of other podcasts, that in my role as a autism specialist, many of my children have never accessed a store before, never accessed a supermarket or a shop, because it's just too daunting. It creates too many pressures and anxiety for family and friends and things like that. And I think that all of these small provisions that stores are put in place is only a positive, and that even though it's only for an hour, I'm sure that there were many families that accessed this over that time. One of the questions I'm going to ask Kath is, how did this scheme come about, and also are there plans to put it out more than just the half term? Are they going to try and put it in place for longer, which in discussions with the Entertainer, I know that they are, and they're going to say on the podcast exactly what that entails. Now, as you can probably hear, I am a little bit bunged up. I'm a little bit poorly. It's, curse of the people that work in education, that you seem to get ill just before the end of a term or a holiday, and then you carry that through during the holidays. And it's my teacher friends and education friends out there will understand exactly where I'm coming from now, where you're just a little bit run down, and by the end you're more susceptible to illness. And I think there is something else going around at the moment as well, which is just one of those things. So hopefully I'll have a cup of tea and I'll be less bunged up for the interview, which will be coming up shortly. Excuse me again. One thing I just want to touch upon is, in my last podcast I did with Steph Curtis, she works for the PDA Society, and she has a young daughter with PDA as well. I mentioned at the very end of that podcast that AFC Bournemouth Professional Football Club here on the South Coast have introduced sensory bags for autistic, autistic fans. And I just want to reiterate how much I think that is an amazing thing, because AFC Bournemouth, they are the smallest Premier League club. They've got the smallest ground, 11,000 fitting. They fit that in comparison to Manchester United, 78,000, Wembley Stadium, 90,000. Emirates 58,000, Anfield 56,000, and go on and on. I'm showing off with a bit of my sports knowledge now. I will stop. That AFC Bournemouth have introduced these Century bags, which will have a soft ball in there. It will have a pair of ear defenders. It will have a lanyard so staff are aware, like they do at Exeter Airport, Bristol Airport, things like that. And they are also looking into using a room as a quiet room as well. Now, I have been in AFC Bournemouth a few times, and when back in my playing days, I was sort of around the club as a youth player, and I will say that the club isn't that big, and there are not that many rooms in the building to have a quiet room, and the club will maybe use an old boardroom or a meeting room or something like that. But for a Premier League club such as Bournemouth, a small club, to give up that space, I think is superb, and they should be commended for that. I have approached them for an interview, just like, again, a short 15-20 minute interview. I'm not sure if they will reach out to me to do that, but they did give me the statement, which I did read at the end of the last podcast, which basically says what they have been doing and how much they have been looking into this for a while. I will get the email back up now just so I can read it out again, because I just think it is superb. So it says, we've been working closely with Autism Wessex, looking specifically at our matchday experience for our autistic supporters. We firstly carried out training with matchday stewards and our frontline staff, and we've just recently launched our matchday Century packs, which I've explained. We have also invited service users of Autism Wessex to each of our youth and under-21 matches that have been held at the stadiums. Traditionally, they will get a smaller audience for the youth and under-21 matches. So Premier League, they'll get around 11,800-ish. For under-21 matches, I'll be surprised if they break the 1,000 or 2,000 mark for that. We are now looking at the use of a room to act as a quiet room for supporters to access if needed during match day. And it says, I hope this information has been useful. Any further questions, please do not hesitate to contact me. It's just, again, I know I keep banging on about it, but it is superb that AFC Bournemouth have done that. There's a lot of arenas in the United States that do this with ice hockey and basketball and things like that. And I just think it's a positive moving forward. And lastly, before we get to the interview with Kath, I have approached Tesco as well for an interview and comment around what they've done with quiet hours, because I know that they implemented quiet hours a couple of years ago, and they do it sporadically, the odd day here and there. And I have approached them for an interview, and unfortunately it has been around 6 to 8 weeks of trying to sort this out. Obviously they're a massive company, £1 billion company, so they are very cautious about who they give interviews to, which I understand. But hopefully they'll just give me a statement that I can read out on the things that they do, because the point of this podcast, as you all will know, is just promote positivity, promoting good practice throughout the community, just places that autistic children, autistic adults can access. Educators can take children along and access those hours or that facility at that certain time. And that's what I'm looking to do, really, is just spread that positive message. So fingers crossed we get that. Lots more to come on the podcast soon. I've got about another 3 or 4 interviews lined up, but obviously I'm just trying to get through as many interviews as I can over the Easter holidays, as when we go back to school it's going to be straight back to it, and I can't spread myself too thin, and after all it is a homemade podcast. So so I'm going to stop rambling on now, and I'm going to introduce Kath momentarily. I'm very thankful for the Entertainer for giving me their time. It's going to be a short 20-minute interview. It's all that they can do. It's around 5 or 6 questions, but I've planned these questions quite thoroughly, so I hope that they meet all your expectations. Keep following me on Twitter. Any questions, go on Twitter. If you want to listen to the podcast, which you are right now, they're all on the official YouTube channel, The Century Hour, and we're doing pretty well. I mean, we've got around over 100 views, which I think is superb. As I've tweeted out, that might as well be 100,000 to me, because I just think that is superb, that a little passion project of mine that has been listened to by over 100 people is superb, and I hope people are getting a lot out of it. Anyway, Kath will be next, and I will hear and see from you soon. Okay, and hello, I've got Kath on the line now. Hello,
Hello, David.
How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Thank you. Well, I'll get straight into it because I know that you'll be very busy. So my first question is, you've recently started a scheme in your stores, in the Entertainer toy stores, where the first business hour during half term were quiet hours to support those with autism in your stores. How did the scheme come about?
Well, we wanted to work closely with the NES, the official autism hour, in October, and this allowed us to explore the idea further to kind of roll it out on a more permanent, regular basis so that people actually would know what to expect and would take advantage of it. So we made the decision to trial it through the half-term break in February, where it happened every day.
Okay, and what were the key things that you implemented to make your stores more manageable for those with autism? So one such thing was not playing any music?
Yes, and I believe and know that this is key. So that was our first decision. And we also decided that although between 9 and 10 in the morning was early, this was really the only time where we could predict the store would be fairly quiet with customers, because it's not possible to ask customers to be quiet. So we decided to hold it between 9 and 10 in the morning. So also we wouldn't be doing demos for the first hour of opening, and wherever possible in our stores we would dim the lights.
Okay, and during the hours of 9 and 10, would you say that is your quietest business hours then?
Yes, definitely. Especially with the more shopping centre type stores, because it really doesn't get going till later in the morning. So I guess for families who have children with challenges, it means they have to make an early start. But as I say, it was the only way we could predict that our stores themselves would be quieter with fewer customers.
Yeah, and also I suppose that this would also, entice parents to come out as well early on, because they would know that it would be quiet and they would know.
They would be able to predict it. This was the thing. If you do something regularly and reliably, then people just know what they're turning up to with some confidence, because we want them to know that they can rely on us to do this every Saturday.
Yeah. So you said you were involved in discussions with the National Autistic Society.
Yeah.
Were there? So what kind of discussions did you have with them? Was it around having it fixed for an hour and what certain strategies you could use in the stores?
We started with the trial, because having started the conversation, we realised there were certain things that would be fairly easy for us to implement, just to trial it. And see if it was really something that parents felt was useful and valuable. So that trial happened over the week in February, according to which areas of the country had half term. They vary. They tend to vary across different areas.
Yeah.
We just did consult with the National Autistic Society, but I think since doing that trial, we've had such amazing feedback from families and parents and people involved with children with challenges that. We're learning. I think we're learning all the time.
Yeah, and I think it's one of these things that you'll be led by the feedback that you get, and you'll be able to adjust and be flexible with that as well.
Yeah, because how often can you do something with the best will in the world, but actually you're not meeting any kind of need because you didn't completely understand the situation.
Yeah.
But the feedback we've had has been great, and these things, after all, are fairly simple to do, aren't they? They just need a bit of planning and some thought and some buy-in from the staff, which we've definitely got.
Yeah, 100%. And when I did see that you were doing the quiet hours, it really got my attention, because I don't think that enough high street stores do these sorts of things, because I am an autism specialist. I've worked in many schools over the last 10, 15 years, and one of the key things that I get from parents and from children with additional needs is that they don't access shops, they don't access supermarkets because of the anxiety around it.
It's too unpredictable. My background is paediatric nursing. I've trained at Great Ormond Street, and I'm now a health visitor. So I have involvement with families that struggle with different things. And if you can make the world more accessible, oh gosh, it's such a gift to families who normally have to double think everything before they do it.
100%, and it will just ease the anxiety on the parents, which will ease the anxiety on the children as well.
And it makes them feel included in the normal world.
Exactly.
I mean, it's so difficult when you have to double think everything just in case something goes badly wrong in an instant. And since we've started this, it's actually had a kind of spin-off effect. So the shopping centres now are joining in, which is really exciting. So, for example, Bristol Galleries and Cabot Circus and Westfield London are now joining in. On Westfield London in particular, our end, well, our stores is the kind of children's end of the shopping mall. So there's different shops that just cater especially for children's clothing or shoes or toys. And that whole aisle now is being kept quiet. The music is being turned down during that hour. So they've really seen the impact we've had and decided to come on board, which is really exciting because it makes people think.
It does, and like I said, it just really all it needed was that one store, which was yourselves, to take that initiative, and then it's like a domino effect, isn't it, where people see the impact that it has. Yeah,
and how easy it is. How easy it is to do it. It just takes a bit of thought and planning.
Yeah. So my next question is: would this be a scheme you'd look to implement more, such as weekends, or would it just be a school holidays? Now,
at the moment we're doing every Saturday.
Oh, brilliant!
Every Saturday between 9 and 10 in our stores. So we've got more than 145 stores. So that's happening every Saturday.
And have you? So you spoke about the positive feedback that you've got. Have you seen those business hours be busier than what they would have normally have been?
I don't think we've studied the footfall, on that. I mean, I could look into it and get back to you on that. So I can't give you any data on that.
No, that's fine.
But the other thing that happens is because we have highlighted something as a business, our staff have now begun to think about it. Because very often, as you know, children in stores don't always behave as well as we would like our children to behave. And some with special needs appear as though they're behaving in a very difficult way. But now we've made our staff aware that there is a whole stratum of society that they may not even have thought about the difficulties before. Now they've begun to think through the difficulties. It just opens up a whole new way of thinking.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. Have you delivered any training to your staff then, or is it just?
No, we haven't, but it's something I personally am thinking about because that's my job. Health education is my job.
Yeah.
So it's something I'm personally thinking about. And certainly the great forum for that will be our managers' conferences in September and our assistant managers' conferences in the spring. So that would be something I could easily do a seminar on. Just to get people thinking, to get their ideas, to get buy-in, to make them feel part of something that's really special.
Yeah, because also if, as you said, that in stores, like even though I don't necessarily like this term, but hidden disabilities is like the fad term at the moment that's going around. Yeah. I mean, I think that it is difficult if you're out in public. Like I've taken a lot of pupils out in public, and if there is, say, quote unquote, a meltdown or an issue.
Difficult. And why should you have to keep making excuses for your children?
Exactly.
Why should you have to keep apologising for your children? We're all in it together, aren't we?
Yeah, 100%. And I think that as I'm going to keep going back to it, that the scheme that you've put in place, which is just really, as you've said, it is quite a simple thing that you've put in place, but it has such a big impact on so many people and also on other businesses as well, like a domino effect, that people will see what you've done and what you've put in place and think, well, why aren't we doing something like that?
Why aren't we doing it? Yeah.
Are you looking to further develop this scheme in any way? So there's certain, like one, for example, a football club, AFC Bournemouth, are in the Premier League. They've just implemented a Century goodie bag on arrival. So they will give like a softball and ear defenders and things like that. Are there any things that you'll implement like that in store?
No, we haven't. But I think now we're world of thinking more widely about our customers. I think it's something we'd be happy to investigate and just see how workable it would be. But we always want to make our environment comfortable for children, don't we? So all children, not just children that are middle class and well behaved, but children that come in because this is their treat of the week to go to the toy shop. It should be a place where families can really relax.
Yeah.
So the answer is we haven't yet, but I'm certainly not going to just stop at these simple things. Let's see what else we can do.
Well, that's superb, because essentially it sounds like that this scheme is your very starting point, like your foundation point. And now,
I agree.
because it's been such a positive for many people, and including your staff as well, which you've said a few times as well, that now you can branch off into different areas and think about other ways that you could support all children and make all your stores inclusive.
Exactly, and that's how it should be, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's exactly how it should be, yeah.
Yeah, it really is superb, because, like I said, in my role, I've been mentioning to a few of the children that that the entertainer's doing this, and they've been really excited that they feel like they could go to a place and be included and not necessarily feel like something might go wrong. And I think that's the thing in the back of these children's heads, and also parents.
Yeah, I work with a group of children who are very challenging, and the world is fine and it's going along fine, and then suddenly something happens that's unpredictable and the whole thing goes badly wrong. And we want people to be comfortable in our stores. We want it to be somewhere they can feel safe in their minds to plan to go and turn up and know that they're not going to feel different, because there's nothing very different that you could say. You know, it's not a special environment for special children. It's just an environment that's more child-friendly.
Yeah.
So they can do whatever the whole world is doing. That's what I'm saying. They can do what the whole world is doing. They can take their kids to the toy shop on a Saturday morning. Exactly,
and just feel a part of something rather than excluded from things.
Yeah.
Before I let you go, because we've rattled through this, I've actually really enjoyed this, because I can sense your passion for it as well, which is just superb. One of the things that Bristol and Exeter Airport have implemented, they've implemented lanyards, so that children with autism or with additional needs, they are visible then to staff. So when they come to go into the airport, they can wear the lanyard, so that it isn't necessarily that they are highlighted for whatever reason. It's just so that staff are aware. And I was just wondering that maybe this could be something that you guys might consider.
Tell me, how did the families feel about that?
Well, with the families that I've spoken to, they have used it as that they've discussed it with their children, and they've said, like, this is, if you wear the lanyard, then people will be able to help and support you, and you also get a little goodie bag of little sensory toys and things when in the airport. So it just like keeps them occupied, because airports are a very overstimulating place anyway.
So stressful, and everybody is stressed.
Exactly.
There's rushing, and there's noise and loudspeakers and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, because I'm not really on the fence with it. I'm quite happy with that staff are able to help certain people, I suppose, but also at the same time they are being highlighted for wearing the lanyards and maybe being a little bit different. I just wondered, because it just popped into my head, I just wondered what your view was on it, really.
No, I think that's a great idea. I just need to investigate the safety thing about a young lanyard around a child's neck.
Yes.
But I'm sure they can. I'd really love these contacts for that idea, and also the sensory goodie bags. I'd really love the contact for that, to just see the problems they've come up against and what they've, how they've thought it through. That would be useful. Yeah,
no, that's absolutely fine. I'm more than happy to email the contact of who I've been speaking to about these things, and because at the end of the day, all we're trying to do is make life a little bit more manageable for those with autism
and their families. Because it's a huge amount of work having a child with challenges. It's huge. It's relentless. It's like a 24-hour day.
It is.
And if you can predict the world you're walking into, it's so much better.
100%, because there's been conversations about giving children on the autistic spectrum, their parents, blue badges as well, hasn't there, so that they can park in disabled bays.
Yes, I've had care of a child with difficulties in the last few weeks, and actually we were at an airport, and he wasn't behaving well because the flight was delayed. Nothing was predictable. That was the thing. I couldn't explain what was about to happen because I didn't know what was about to happen. So he really had a difficult hour. And I heard myself saying to somebody there, sorry, he's younger than he looks. And I thought, flip, I shouldn't have to explain to someone. I shouldn't have to make excuses for this child. He's a lovely, lovely child. But he just has difficulties in that environment. So you're right, anything we can do is public education, really, isn't it?
Exactly, and I think that there's more awareness around autism and things like that, but I don't think that, but also at the same time, I think that families are very isolated in this, and they don't feel like they have enough contacts or they have enough support. And really, I suppose that's the whole point of this podcast that I've set up, is just to give families a little bit more support and a bit of knowledge as well.
Yeah, just to feel somebody's in it with them.
Exactly. Well, I've got through all my questions. I'm not sure if there's anything else you want to add before I finish, but I've really, really enjoyed this. It's been one of my best interviews that I've done, because I can sense your passion. I can sense that you're trying to do something really special as well. And it's just quite refreshing and really nice to, it's just given me a big pick-me-up. I've been quite poorly this week, so it's giving me a really good pick-me-up for the rest of the week.
But we can learn from you. We can learn from your families. Let's still go on the journey. Let's see what else we can do. Let's see how we can, just make the world a more equal place.
Exactly, and I'll stay in contact and send over some of my contacts as well, so that we can just make everywhere a little bit more inclusive for everyone, I suppose.
Yeah, definitely.
Perfect. Well, thank you for your time. Thank you.
Okay, David.
So, a nice, short and sweet episode this week. I just want to put on record my thanks to Kath Grant, who is the wife of the founder of The Entertainer. She is obviously so passionate, as you saw through the interview there. She is obviously just at the beginning stages of this, and this is just the first step for her, which is to put the quiet hours in place. You could see her drive and determination to make this something really beautiful and something really special that not only The Entertainer can take on board, but like she said, Westfield Shopping Centre in London, huge shopping centre, which is now doing the same things and same strategies and schemes in that corner of the shopping centre where all the toy shops and clothes are and things like that. After we got off the phone, me and Kath discussed sharing some of my contacts, and she wanted to stay in contact, which again just goes to show that this family-run business, I say family-run, 145 stores nationwide, is just looking to do something very special and something to be so inclusive. And as you saw, she was asking a few questions in the interview as well, and you could see that she is trying to get as much information as possible so she can make something truly amazing in their store. I have actually gone down to my local Entertainer in Yeovil on Saturday morning. I went in and saw the quiet hour, and it's just a nice peaceful place. It isn't very busy, no music, just lights are dimmed, really, really nice. And I would recommend any of you out there who are parents of or autistic adults, go down and give it a go and give your feedback to them, because clearly Kath takes all the feedback on board, as she said, and all the feedback they are collating at the moment and putting into some sort of system where they can actually track the impact they're having. One of the interesting things she said as well is about the staff now being briefed and the staff being spoken to and learning on the job about autism and about other additional needs which they might not have known, and also how she is considering getting staff training, which I think is a superb thing, because it's quite difficult to understand the needs that are coming into the shop if you are, no disrespect, a shop assistant and just work in a shop. I've worked with autism for over 10 years, and actually I get things wrong from time to time, and everyone out there will say that they do. And I think that it's just really important that staff training goes ahead, which Kath is so eager to do. I'm just absolutely delighted with how the episode went. It is only a short episode, around half an hour long, but for the content that you've got and the passion that you've got as well. As I said to Kath, I was feeling quite ill that morning, as you would have heard in my introduction. I was quite bunged up, and I wasn't really maybe not in the right place to be doing an interview, but because it was organised weeks in advance, I was like, no, I'm going to power through. And as soon as I got on the line with Kath, I was just reinvigorated to see that someone in such a position, such as the founder of a toy store, the family of the founder of a toy store, is looking to do something so outstanding. And just like she said, it's very easy to do, and more people should do it. I'm going to leave you with that. I would just urge all of you to spread the word about the Entertainer, because as you would have got in this interview, that actually there are people out there in high positions, and there are stores out there that make millions and millions that actually want to do some good and be more inclusive. So I'd urge you all to go out to the Entertainer toy store. I'm going to be staying in contact with Kath and giving a few of my contacts over and see if we can work together a little bit and share some expertise and stuff, which, you know, is just wonderful. And that's what all of this is about, is to share experiences, share knowledge, and make the world just a slightly more inclusive, better place for everyone. This has been the Century Hour, and I will see you next time.